Well, good afternoon and welcome to another live iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and today I am joined by my friend Birgit Pauli-Haack, who's going to be talking to us about full site editing. Birgit is a WordPress developer advocate sponsored by Automattic. She is also the curator at Gutenberg Times and the co-host of the Gutenberg Changelog podcast. Before she started working for Automattic, Birgit ran an agency for about 20 years. Her team built online solutions for small businesses and nonprofits and artists, all using WordPress. Birgit, it's great to have you back on iThemes Training. How are you today?
Well, hi, Nathan. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Yeah, thanks for
Absolutely.
inviting me.
Yeah, we had Birgit on, I guess it was last year at some point, or maybe earlier
Yeah.
this year, talking about the great design opportunities with how the block editor handles photos. And I'll do my best to look that up and drop that link back in the chat for folks that want to know more about you. But give us a little bit of an overview of what we're covering today.
Yeah, hey, everyone. We'll talk about the projects that are actually under the FSE umbrella, the full site editing umbrella, and we will talk about the theme blocks, block themes, and all the things around it. And then we will look at the site editor where everything comes together for the user. And we will have a live demo on how this actually gonna work. So I'm really looking forward to it and hope you too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've just once again dropped this slide link in our chat room at ithemes.com/chat. And I see our attendee number ticked up significantly since we just got started here. So if you are just now joining us in GoToWebinar, I want to invite you to our chat room, which is located at ithemes.com/chat. Now, it's important that you go there because that is the place to ask your questions as we go today. And this is a live webinar. Birgit is actually here. Well, not here, but here virtually, and is doing this presentation. And we invite your interaction. We'll have a time of Q&A. So use our chat room to ask your questions at ithemes.com/chat. If you ask a question, I have two requests. First, please put the word question in all uppercase at the beginning, so it's sure to catch my attention. And second of all, if you ask a question, please watch the chat room for the next minute or two, just in case I need to ask a clarifying question, because when we get to our time of questions and answers, I want to be able to ask Birgit some good, clear questions, and we want to get all of your questions answered in the process. You'll also find the link to today's slides there in the chat if you'd like to follow along. It's also important because Birgit has some great resource links on those in the slide deck, and you can't click her screen. So you'll need to download the PDF of the slides there in the chat room in order to get those resources. So with that, Birgit, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's talk about full site editing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for facilitating this. You're a master in doing that. So hello, everybody. Again, full site editing in WordPress. Let's go with if that would work. So yes, full site editing is a collection of features that bring the familiar experience or not so familiar experience and extensibility of blocks to all parts of your site rather than just the post and pages. And that was quoted from the WordPress Developer Handbook. Just so we know where we are, there are 4 phases of Gutenberg. Phase 1 was post and page editor, which is done sort of, and of course it's always going to be improved. And we have been, and full site editing was phase 2, and it will come to 5.9 in its first iteration. And if you're not familiar with it, the development path that WordPress takes, that the developer on WordPress take, is we do a first iteration to see that the functionality and the flow all works, and then iterate very fast after it. Phase 3 of the 4 phases of Gutenberg is the collaborative editing. That's kind of a Google Doc editing experience built into core. And phase 4 is multi-language content also built into core. Matt Molenbeek, the co-founder of WordPress, and identified that project as a 10-year project, and we are in its 4th year now. So that's kind of how this will progress. Each one is quite exciting for me. and maybe for you too. So, okay, the projects that are under the full site editing umbrella, and they're all in various stages of development, and they're coming together now, sort of. So there is the site editor, then there is a block theme, then we have templates and template parts, theme blocks, styling, and Theme.json file. That's for the theme developers. And then the browsing, that means the editing part of the editor, navigation block, a query block, a navigation editor, and a widget editor. So WordPress 5.9 will only bring you a beta version of things, and it will all be still in development afterwards. But it's stable enough so you can actually use it if you want to. It will not come automatically to you. You need at least a full site editing theme, but we're gonna talk about that in a bit. So first up, the smallest item, or the smallest unit entity on WordPress block editor is the block. So everything from a page title to a page comment and all that is going to be in a block. So theme blocks do for block themes. Yeah, a nice iteration there. What theme tags in PHP do for the classic themes. So out of the get the underscore title function becomes the post title block, and all that on. So you will see here is the full list right now that's in in the Gutenberg editor. The theme blocks, there are 21 theme blocks available, will be available in WordPress 5.9. Some were already released in 5.8, but when you, it's all kind of a bit overwhelming, I can see, definitely. But you see, for a single post, you would need the post title, you would need the post feature image, you would need the post content, the post date, and the post author. So this is kind of the 6 blocks would have been 6 theme tags for a previous theme and others. So there's a post list, a term description for the archive pages, all that. And then, oh, sorry. Then there comes the block theme that contains, block themes contain out of HTML for templates and template parts. They use theme blocks for the layout, and that there will be in the HTML. And then they use the Theme.json file to configure the theme supports, the color palette, typography, and style for the site, or even for a single block as a global styles. So that's how a template could look. Yeah, you see something, it might look a little bit scary because it's code, but it's actually comment in HTML that are parsed through the editor when it comes to the front end. And then you see some main class in there. And then I highlighted just a little bit of attributes there. These templates you can actually build with the block editor without using code. So a theme provides you a one version of the theme template, and you can then edit it later in the site editor. That's how a Theme.json looks. JSON file looks like. It's got one place to configure the block editor and the theme support features, or that's also the file where you can turn them off. It's in the file is in the root directory of the theme. If you have a child theme or build a child theme from that full site editing theme, there you can put in a Theme.json there as well, and it will be merged with the parent theme, but the child theme will take precedence. And that's you could also go very granular in this Theme.json file to configure actually core blocks as well, and switch off, for instance, duotone, or switch off the gradient, switch off even custom colors or custom font size. So you as a theme developer or someone who builds pages, uses a page builder, uses that for page builder, it's a very it's an easy to read file because the JSON format is meant to be humanly readable. So unless you forget a double quote or something like that, you are just fine in changing them, or if you want to change the primary color or something like that. And then there are 26 themes already in the WordPress repository that are full site editing. And underneath that slide, I have the link to it. That's the wordpress.org/themes/tags/full-site-editing. And they're all very good. Some of them are, so themes can be, there are 4 different kind of ways how theme developers can approach that full site editing. One is they stay classic and do what they did before, but they use the Theme.json file to configure the block editor, even for the post or pages. So they can switch off some of the things that was a little bit more cumbersome with the functions PHP. That is now considerably easier for theme developers that have classic themes or site builders that manage classic themes. And then there are hybrid themes, which is pretty much a classic theme with a theme.json file. Then there is a universal theme, and universal themes, in that loop that you just see, there's one that's called block base from Automattic, and then there are 5 sub themes in there. They are considered universal theme. They work for a site that does wants to stay classic, as well as a site that wants to do full site editing, or site owner that wants to do full site editing. So there is quite a few all full site editing only. For instance, the TT1 blocks is a copy of the 2021 theme, but only for full site editing. So if you want to have a site that uses that, you can test it out on the test site, please, because all the features are not yet, first not released and still in beta. So only the brave go on a live site with that. So next, we talked about the theme blocks, we talked about the block themes, and now through the site editor, there's a big a word next to it that says beta. Everything comes together if you're a user and you want to go on and edit. So the site editor is the entrance for editing templates. For instance, your single home template, your archive template, your single page template, your query block, or the category pages. Then there's template parts that you can create for header and footer, or modify. They come with the theme. And then you can also adjust the styles in the right sidebar. So we have pretty much 2 new sidebars in the editor. So the first is, this is a screen to edit the index page, pretty much the summary of all the blocks, kind of all the posts, that the newest post. On the left-hand side, you see something very familiar. That's your blocks and patterns and reusable block inserter. And right now I scrolled it up to the theme blocks so you can see them, but they are completely in there with the other themes. You could use other themes on your templates, other blocks on your templates. And then you see in the middle the canvas where you can change the header and the post content. On the right hand side, you see styles, and also a little word there that says beta. And you see that is in the top navigation bar. In the top bar, you see there's the usual wheel there. And then there is the styles button there, so you can switch between those 2 sidebars. And then on the right hand side, you also see the typography section, a color section, and a layout section, and even a blocks section. But as I said, that's all a little bit beta. Another screenshot is here. then next screenshot, and this shows you the new version of the list view. And when you use it for site editing, this is going to be your friend, because now you can really target. Yeah, you don't have to fiddle around. Where is my inserter? You can actually do quite a few things here in the list view. This is, for instance, the query block. It shows you there's a post template block and then 3 smaller blocks there, just so you, and it's highlighted, and it tells you exactly where you are and what you can do there. Also, just a little note here. Also, your friend is the top toolbar. In the post or pages, I don't have a hard time having the toolbar right at my blocks. I actually like it, but when I do the site editing, it's not yet, it covers too much from what I wanted to do. So I'll tag it to the top. And I show you right when we go into demo how to do that. So that was a rundown of the little pieces. And I don't know how the question situation is. But so what do you need to enable this for yourself? So before December 14th, and that date is actually the scheduled release date for WordPress 5.9. So before your site is updated to 5.9, you would need a theme built for full site editing, either from the WordPress repository, and there's also a theme experiment link here that goes to a GitHub repository where the theme team shares their experiments. They also share their tools there. One of them is create theme script. So you can run this and then have a scaffolding of a full site editing theme. That's very nice. And then, of course, you need the Gutenberg plugin, and that 11.8 or higher. So next week, 11.9 comes out. There are a few Gutenberg plugin versions before December 14th, but yeah, try to get the latest one, either from the WordPress repository, or if you want to be part of testing things out before it actually is merged into WordPress 5.9, there's only another few days, or see if it in the bug fix feature freeze is on next week. And after that, it's all bug fixing. And if you want to help, there is Gutenberg Nightly version available that is run almost every day by me. And you can upload that to your test site and also update it through a second plugin. That link goes to a web page where it explains it everything to you. And of course, you need WordPress 5.8 because that's where the Theme.json comes in, or that's already merged with core, and you need that as well. Now, after December 14th, you only need 2 things. One is a theme build for full site editing, and then WordPress 5.9, and everything should be working. Another caveat, it is in beta. All right. So it's demo time, and we will have another caveat. I'm using pre-release versions, and the screens are not final until they're released. So I'm going to go into escape from the and then go to, this is my demo site, and it's just a local, and I go to the dashboard, and I just wanted to show, and I have the Gutenberg Nightly here. If I grab a theme, so just so you see what the message is. If I go back to a classic theme, activate that, and then I switch off the plugin, you get a nice little message, and I want you all to see it so you know what's happening when you see it. I said, I forgot something. Yes, you forgot the full site editing, the plugin or something like that. So if I would activate this one, it gives you the message, this theme owner uses full site editing, which requires the Gutenberg plugin to be activated. Yeah, let's go and do that. I go into my installed plugins, I activate it, and then I go back to themes, oops, themes, and activate my PAULI theme that I just, that's a very, very basic theme. And then you see that the appearance menu changed on you. I don't know if you saw that, but there is editor, and that's the beta version of it. When I click in that, you see recognize things, but hey, in my previous screens, there were some featured image in there. So I'm gonna demo how to put the featured image in there, how to put the date in there, and the author. And so we can see this all in real life. There's a list view, so that helps me a bit. So, and I go into the query loop, and then I go into my blocks, and I go here and add a block, and that's the featured, post featured image. All right, but I don't want it on the bottom. I want it up there. So I go here, and you see it updates it all for all 6 of them that are on screen. And I have a few modifications that I can make here. If I do a 250 height, yeah, and then I can contain it. So it keeps the same ratio, or I can fill it and it would skew it a bit, but I can also do a cover and then it just crops it at a certain place to fill the space there. And then there's a read more link that I already put in there. And I also want to add the author, post author. And it comes also a little higher here. Oops, that was too high. And I don't want to show the avatar, just leave it like that. And then I also want to add the date, post date, and so I could also use the list view to say, okay, I want to kind of move it here. That's pretty cool. And I want to do this further up there on the left-hand side. Can you all see the screen, or do I have to make it bigger?
That's probably pretty good.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you, Nathan. All right. So that's the featured image, but of course the image has all the tools that, not all the tools, but many of the tools. So first I can also decide to link it to the post, which a lot of people kind of try to click on images and want to go to the post, although so here's an easy way to do that. You could also do this for the avatar, for the date, I'm sorry, link also to the post. And then you get the typography. You can change appearance of that. You can say, okay, I want it thin, yeah, or I want it bold, or I want, yeah. So you get the picture here. You could also do some text color changes if you wanted to. You could say, I want it green. Doesn't work so much with the link, but if I do this, then yeah, so there's a link color here, and I'm using a beta version, so it looks a little bit funny. That's kind of a bug here, but they're working on it. So that's how you can change that. So I'm gonna take this away. I have that. So now I want to, because this is all too much color for me. I say this. So I want to and I could do it in blue, but the orange I don't like. So I can do, have you ever played around with the duotone? So I could do that, or I could do that. No, that is kind of good. All right. So, and now you see that, and then I save everything, and it says save, save the template. I could also change here the header, but it then kind of grays out everything else. And So I could actually add also the site tagline in here if I wanted to. And then I can change the typography of it as well and go a little bit 18. Oops. Yeah, save that. And all of a sudden you see a multi entity save screen. I want to save the header and the custom styles for the tagline. So, all right. So how does it look online? That's a little bit cumbersome. You need to go back to the dashboard. It's still back to the save and surprise kind of approach that we still have with the classic editor, but they're working on it to make that also nice and reactive to changes. All right, so well, we have our front page. It's a little bit normalized, so the pictures don't distract from the text. And I have my information that I have wanted to in there. So that's the first demo. And I also wanted to show, so you could also change the singular with the post title, post author, post date kind of thing. So if we do the featured image, we could also say we want it also to be duotone. Oops, no, not that. All right. Yeah. So going back to leave that, yes, and then okay, good. So how does that look? I also did in preparation for this, I also did a few changes to this owner one, and I did it all with the site editor. Yeah, so I had a different header image here. This one I was able to change out with the images as well, and then I have my list of things here. So if I activate that, I can still do some editing as well. Yeah. So this one here has some, I can change out the picture, replace the picture, and it will keep the gradient as well as the layout for it, the colors for it. And then here I added different pictures here and then a button on top of it. But you see already that is not how it looks without the sidebar open. So it goes to different places. That's just images split with a button. And when I go here and want to change that, I could actually change who is in the image as a cover block there. Yeah, I can kind of make that. Yeah. And I want different things here. And I even could change the size of it, of the buttons. So they go over the full width of that. And then I save it. And or the preview that you see here is not the one that you see from the post and pages. This is just so you can double check on the mobile version of things. Yeah, so this will collapse and just show up nicely in the mobile version. Okay, so I think that's and I go back to the desktop and then I can go back. Oh, I saved it, yes. So that's kind of for now the demonstration I have, and I get ready for your questions, I think.
All right. Yeah,
we
great.
probably go back to some demos, yeah, so I can show things and answer some questions with that. So
Yes,
all right.
definitely. So, folks, if there are things that you would like to see in a demo, you can certainly request those in the chat. For now, we have quite a few questions stacked up here. Yeah, we'll start off with a great question from Tanya that's on the top of probably most people's mind who manage websites. So we know that WordPress 5.9 is scheduled to release on December the 15th, so about 6 weeks from now. Tanya would like to know what's that going to do to existing websites during the busiest selling season of the year?
Well, I don't know how long you've been with WordPress, but there were 40 releases in December in the history of WordPress. So there is the full site editing part will not touch your website at all unless you have a full site editing a theme in place, and you probably don't want to do this on a live site anyway right now. So nothing will happen there. And there is one feature is going to come in with the block editor if you have it. That is that changes the blocks. The gallery block has been refactored and totally revamped. Is pretty much the translation for refactored. And now is comprises of single image blocks. So every gallery image could have its own design, its own duotone, and also its own link. Yeah, so that will come with 5.9. And it will not touch your existing galleries. It's just for new galleries that you create. It will be a different interface. A slightly different. It will still go through the media library and you select the galleries, but it will then, I can demonstrate that if we want to. But other than that, there is not a whole lot that will change on your website during the busiest time of the year.
Yeah. And full site editing, as I understand it, Birgit, is off for themes unless it's turned on specifically. Is that right?
Right. It will not turn on unless you actually have a theme that can handle full site editing. Yeah, so and all the themes that are in the repository, there are 26 in there, would need to be newly installed to actually do that. The other part is, there is no need to upgrade from 5.8 to 5.9 if you are on the cautious side. Yeah, you can wait until January. They have on the docket a release next week for 5.8.2. That has one little bug fix that needed to come in for the gallery block to not for one of the themes that I saw, and then the other ones are just bugs on the back end of it. But there is a security thing attached to it, so that comes out next week. And if you stay at 5.8.2 for another 3 weeks after it is released, going into January, you're totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is, for a lot of our audience are people who build and manage sites for clients. And so if that is you, then, what you just heard Birgit say is no need to panic. Nothing is going to change. But if you're like me, I typically don't update to a major core release for at least a few weeks, especially the December release. That's usually, maybe the first week of January, we'll start really looking at that.
Yeah. We did this and a lot of hosts, if you're on managed hosting, they test those things 2 weeks at a minimum and then upgrade.
Right.
If that's part. Yeah.
Okay, so Sue had a question. Earlier on, you showed the list of all of the theme blocks that are part of full site editing. How do you see those? Does that require the Gutenberg plugin to be active, or is there something else you have to turn on to see those blocks?
Well, they need to be, the Gutenberg plugin needs to be turned on, yes. Up until December 14th, until 5.9 comes out, or later, you will need to have the Gutenberg plugin installed. Afterwards, you don't need it because they will be in core.
Got it. And do those blocks appear for every theme, or do you have to have a block-enabled theme?
That's a good question. I think they only appear when you have a full site editing theme.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure about that. That's a very good question. Thank you.
I don't know either. All right, let's see. Another question from Sue. Are block patterns going to become as easy to save as reusable blocks?
Not in 5.9, but there is a discussion around that, how to save blocks in as a non-coder, pretty much in your own system. There are 2 plugins that actually do that already, and one is called Reusable Blocks Extended, and that's by JB Audrus. Maybe I find it quickly. WordPress plugins. Oops, if I could spell it right.
And I am placing that link in the chat right now for anybody watching live.
Yeah, and that's reusable blocks. Yeah, that's a reusable block extended. There is a feature there to actually highlight a group block or as a series of blocks and then save as block pattern. So that, and JB Audrus, Jean-Baptiste Audrus is actually an outgoing team rep for the core WordPress core team. So he can pretty much, it's pretty well done. So you can certainly trust it. Yeah, that answer your question. In core, there is not yet. Because what they do is in 5.9 you also see a category on the block patterns, WordPress.org patterns. You see now a featured category, and that will also be available in the inserter. So the team is kind of curating a few of those because they're now over 90 block patterns already in the directory. So you can wiggle them down and kind of just go to featured and kind of look at them. But you know, the gallery and header images, images and text block patterns, yeah. And you could actually use block patterns in your theme, in your templates. Yeah, and many of the themes, I know that one of the theme is called Toby. I'll go back here and grab that link. Yeah. It's called Toby. It looks a little bit funny, and it's great fun. But it's by Anders Noren, and he has built. He's a theme developer who also worked on a few default themes. The 2020, for instance, and this one is his full site editing theme, and he has about 40 block patterns in there for those who wanted to use it. And it's really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Marianne had a question a bit earlier that's interesting. How are custom fields incorporated in full site editing or in the block editor in general?
Custom fields, if they come from a plugin, they are probably in the sidebar of the editor. On the full site editing, it probably needs to be a hybrid right now in terms of surfacing custom fields in the theme. Like if you use ACF, advanced custom fields, or so, you still would need the template engine from ACF to, and your theme needs to have a functions or a theme template there in PHP to surface them on the front end. So that's not yet anything available in the full site editing part, unless you build a block for it.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that it's not going to be there. Yeah, but the team is just kind of not there yet to have that implemented.
Right. So at this point, if you're using a plugin, for example, to build a custom, to create a custom field or create a custom post type, frequently that plugin is going to have some way to incorporate that into your layout, whether it's a shortcode or a block or something, right?
Right. Yeah. And if the custom post type has the the little settings for show in rest, it will actually pull up the Gutenberg, the block editor for adding new posts for those post type. And then you can use the query block that we saw, where I did that has some nice features in there. Oops, I need to log in my local site. Okay. So when I go in here, editor, and say, okay, I want to, oh, I need a different theme. Then you could theme, just a moment here. I don't have a activate that. So go to the editor, and then I go here to my list view. I go to the query block settings, and then I get here the settings. That's with the how many items on the page, how to offset it, and the max to show. And then on the right-hand side, there's a post type. Right now, I only have post and pages, but it would show the custom post types. Yeah, and then you can also say in 3-column or in different columns numbers. Right now it's 3 columns and it's newest to oldest, but you can also say include, exclude the sticky post or only the sticky post. It depends on what kind of page you have, or you can sort it differently. Yeah, oldest to newest, or A to Z, or Z to A. Yeah. So there's a few things that you can do here with the query loop. And this, for this feed, you could actually even go over to the post editor. But that's these are the features that you already built into. Yeah, you can say, okay, I want an author page to use the same query loop, but only for that particular author. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very good. Let's see. So there's a discussion happening in the chat room right now that I want to address, and there's always confusion about this anytime we start talking about block editor and Gutenberg and full site editing and so forth. And Birgit, I'm going to take a stab at explaining this, and you fill in the places I'm deficient or comment further. Okay.
Okay.
So what I've always said here on iThemes training is that there's a difference between the block editor and Gutenberg. Gutenberg is the plugin in which all this new development is occurring. That includes the block editor, which is usable on pages and posts. It includes all of these full site editing features. All that stuff is being built and released every 2 weeks in the Gutenberg plugin. At every major WordPress release, all the development between the previous major release and this one is wrapped up and put into core. Am I explaining that correctly, Birgit?
Yeah, pretty much. That's it's all the future features all under Gutenberg. It's also the development. So it's more so the block editor is the result of the Gutenberg development.
There, good. That's a great way to put it. And so the practical question is, for those of you who just don't want the block editor to show up at all yet for whatever reason, Birgit, if someone after WordPress 5.9, if they have the classic editor plugin still installed, is anything going to change for them?
No, nothing.
Right. Okay, good. So hopefully that settles. If you have follow-up questions about that, please drop them there in the chat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So great questions from John. For those of us who are new to full site editing, can you suggest 2 or 3 themes to get our feet wet? Now you had there's a whole list there. Do you have a couple of favorites?
So I do have a couple of favorites. So Toby is, I think, one of the most comprehensive, using all the features that are available. But for a beginner, it's probably something like where is it? The here the TT1 blocks, because that's what the team uses to also for testing. So that has been updated to the newest versions. And then there is also a block theme out there called Clove. That's beautiful. If you want a very basic one, you use the Cormorant as well. But those are the ones, the Tove, TT1 blocks. and yeah, Cormorant is an yeah, just to get started and kind of see when you hit it. I hit the limits quite a bit, but it also gave me a thing. It gave me more confidence in using the site editor, and that is certainly a value in itself. And I also like the geologist, but that needs to wait for the next version of Gutenberg, because there was that bug in there that I mentioned before. And owner is really beautiful. That's definitely
Y'all,
my
she likes
favorite.
them all. She likes all the themes, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. So if you ever go to the WP Tavern, Jason Tadlock, who is a reporter on the W Tavern, he does quite a few theme reviews, and he is looking at and has some more than just the little snippets that's on the WordPress.org. It kind of, he talks about owner, and then he talks, kind of scroll a little bit, and then he come. Oh, this one is certainly nice. The block theme revolution, he calls it. And so he has always a few themes that he and lately he has only dealt with full site editing themes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's see. So while
This
on
is
the
totally,
subject of themes, there's a great question from Tanya that came in about halfway through. Tanya is just curious, with full site editing, are we going to even need themes? And I might even broaden that to maybe explain, Birgit, what is the role of themes in a full site editing world?
So the role of so what's the role of a designer, right? It actually makes your site beautiful, and it kind of starts out with something that you don't have to spend hours and hours to design your own theme. You certainly can do this, but it's certainly a good place to start as any of the themes. If you want to start with a very basic theme, that is certainly possible, and then build up on it. But it also gives you block patterns that you don't have to come up with, or it takes hours to build block patterns, and if they come out of the box. It also gives you something like what Tove did, what Anders did on in Tove. Yeah, I can certainly put this out in the leave that, go here to themes and enable. I don't have it here. Okay. Yeah, so it gives you a look and feel of your site, that is already matched by a designer, by a professional, and then you can adopt certain things. Yeah, so looking at the 2022 is certainly something to where you can learn or start out from a very high level in building your site. I don't know if that answers the question, but it actually is themes being themes. What themes did in the last 10 years is put a lot of things that are supposed to be in plugins into a theme.
Yes.
And then what you have is the content login, so you cannot switch the theme. So this brings it back to be the design tool and be the best looking website you can be, but not have all the functionality in there to let that be in a plugin. Yeah, that's why also the WordPress core team says blocks do not belong into themes, because if you switch the theme, you lose the content and you lose the block. Yeah, and so I think that separates those two concerns quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
and that's a great way to look at it. The word, if you've been around the WordPress community for any length of time, you've heard what is called, quote unquote, the WordPress way. And that applies to a lot of things, but one is exactly what Birgit just described. There's core WordPress that's responsible for the content management, the content itself. Then you've got your theme, which is responsible for how the content is displayed, and then you've got plugins, which provide functionality. And those three things should be independent. Like, you should be able to swap your theme, swap your plugins without affecting the content itself. And we've gotten away from that a little bit. So it's interesting to see the way themes are coming back to really how they were originally designed and supposed to be, which also answers the question, by the way, of our Cadence plugin, our Cadence theme and plugins here at iThemes. And we get a lot of questions of, well, why aren't these blocks just included in Cadence? Why are there so many plugins you have to install for Cadence? And this is the reason, what Birgit just explained. The blocks don't belong in a theme. They are a plugin. They provide functionality. So, yeah, great stuff, Birgit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I got several more questions, and we're starting to get close to the top of the hour. So Tanya is asking, if you click on the three dots in the top left, can we go back into a page or a post editor real quick?
Yeah. Okay.
So if you click on the three dots at the top left, you choose full screen mode. Will you see the admin bar so you can view site without going out, or is that removed with full site editing?
Oh, full site editing. Yeah, you can. The full site editing is going to use the full site, but there is, when you go in that, and you will see there is no full site screen switch, but there is a top toolbar switch. So if I switch that off, yeah, and then you get the block toolbar there again. If you yeah, you get it up here and it's out of your way, but there is no, so you always have to go through your toggle navigation kind of thing and go 2 steps back to get back to your dashboard menu.
Yeah. Excellent.
It's not ideal yet, but I think that they want the user, or we want the users to kind of test it a bit before we say, okay, we need additional links somewhere.
Right. Let's see. Ben has a question here. How is the speed of full site editing when it comes to Google Core Web Vitals scores?
It's well, I'm not sure it's actually tested, but because it's all block editor, and the block editor has actually good vital score, web vital scores. There's no reason to think that full site editing wouldn't have it, because it's all HTML and the JavaScript engine, and so it's all on the client side, and only goes for the server side that takes the turn to get the dynamic content. But it should be shouldn't have any effect. Should actually much better than a classic theme, depending on how the classic theme was done. If it was kind of full, all those mystery meats like short codes and widgets and sidebars and all that, then that takes processing time, and those are not here. It's not that you can't have a sidebar. Of course you can have it, but it's all in the template parts.
Right. All right. One final request for a demo from Cheryl. She'd like to see the new gallery.
The new gallery block. Okay, let's go.
I was actually just playing around with this yesterday on our WordCamp Birmingham site, which we just got live finally. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Do I have it here? Okay. So let's add it here on this one. Edit the post. And we just go in here and do gallery. In media library, I want this one and 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 this one. Okay. All right. Insert the gallery. And you see they're all getting the image toolbar. So I can do a duotone here with this one. And then I can do another one with this one. And I can do, if I go to the sidebar, I can actually do round pictures here and here and here. Right. So if you do speakers, like for your WordCamp, you could actually have a headshot and then have your circle speakers, and each one of them can have their own insert link. Vehicle, oops. Yeah, this one has its own link, and this one gets its own link. And it has business, oops, people. And do you see that there comes the search of your titles that's of the post that you have? So you can always kind of do that. Yep. So then you update that, and we go and view the post. So yeah. And then I go here, and you see how the cursor changes. they have all their links.
Very cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, Birgit, this has been really great today. As we're starting
Excellent.
to actually, well, and now one final question pops in from Sally. Can those images be adjusted with different ratios?
Yes, they can, because there is the, hang on, where was I? Here was I. So if I go into edit post again, I can do, it's now a little bigger here. So I can say, okay, I wanna, so first what you can do is, going over there, you can crop them if you want to, yeah, and say, okay, I want a square here, and you apply that, then you have a different ratio, right? That followed suit, but then if you round them, you can have full circles. No, that's one not. But yeah, so that's one thing. And if you, there is one, so if you go into the parent block, yeah, that gives you, that says crop images. And if you uncheck that, then you would have different aspect ratios.
Interesting.
Yeah, so now you see the different aspect ratios here. That's a square, and it fills the same space in the width, but not with it here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question from Cheryl. Can you add a hover effect to those images that are linked?
Hover effect. Yeah, you would need to do it through the CSS style. I don't think there is yet a hover functionality here on that. Nope, it's not.
Yeah, and there may be other gallery blocks that offer that functionality, but the core one I don't think does.
Yeah, and we did an outreach to all the plugin developers and checked with them that they're aware that the gallery block changes, so their plugins would need to change. I'm not sure if we, I double checked with the Cadence team that they know about it. I think they were a little bit further down on my list yet to reach out. But of course, we tested quite a few plugins that modify the galleries, and they had no trouble with it. So we're pretty optimistic that there won't be any breaking changes.
Yeah, very good. And I just dropped a link in the chat. The Cadence Advanced Gallery block does have overlays and hover effects for that sort of thing. And there are a number of block plugins that offer that feature. All right. Well, Birgit, this has been fantastic. Really appreciate your insight into all this and a great demo. Any final thoughts as we're wrapping up today?
Well, my final thought is, yeah, if you want to try it out, but use a test site on the full site editing. And if you want to reach out to me, stay in touch. I want to know what you're doing and how, if you get stuck or something like that, yeah, we can go to the WordPress Slack. My handle is BPH, as well as on Twitter, and DMs are open, or you can reach me via email, pauli@gutenbergtimes.com. And then we have a YouTube channel. So those among you that are theme developers or so and want to talk with to hear what other theme developers think about the full site editing and how they made the transition from classic to block themes. Three weeks ago, we did a live Q&A with Ellen Bauer, Anders Noren, and Carolina Niemark on that topic. And then if you want to stay on top of Gutenberg, you could also subscribe to the Gutenberg Times Weekend Edition and stay in touch with me there. Yeah, and share it, whatever you come up with. And I want to see all those nice little sites because the creativity, and I see this all around WordPress right now, is really sparking up. Yeah, there's a lot of creativity in the world. The last site that I wanted to show you is Patternspiration. Tammy Lister, who was on the design team, she did some work with patterns, and yeah, she has some great ideas and designs there, and she shares code there that you can just copy paste into your code editor. Yeah, like these patterns, they are just marvelous. Yeah, yeah, something like that with an image and the text next to it, and yeah, so that's a lot of creativity coming up. And she has, I think, 20, what was it, 31. She did a 1 month every day, a new block pattern. And I love those. So.
Really good stuff. All right, well, I've shared a bunch of resources there in the chat room, the Gutenberg Times YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Gutenberg Times weekly edition. All those links are there in the chat. Also, the slide link and the replay link. So if you'd like to go back and rewatch this, or if you want to share it with someone else, we'll have this video up in about an hour or so at the link I shared in the chat, which was the same spot you used to register. If this was your first iThemes training webinar, really appreciate you spending an hour with us. It's been a fun thing. I've learned a lot. We do these sorts of webinars all the time here on iThemes Training, and I dropped the link for our free upcoming webinars there in the chat. Birgit, really appreciate your insight. A lot of thank yous, and some coming in German as well there in the chat room to you.
Well, thank you, and vielen Dank. It was wonderful to be here, and there were some marvelous questions. Thank you so much for being so interactive, and these are the best shows or webinars that I have. So I will come back if you have me.
Any votes to have Bridget back? Let's hear from you in the chat. Any votes for having Bridget? Yeah, there they go. Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again, Birgit. Thank you all for being with us as well. Hopefully it's been a valuable investment of your time. I'm back tomorrow here for members, members only office hours webinar here at 1 o'clock Central on iThemes Training. Until then, have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you back here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.